Hey guys, what is up? My name is Michael, or Kiratze Online. Hopefully you guys are having a great day as usual. I am back with another episode of Decking Around, and if you guys aren't familiar with the series or familiar with my YouTube channel, I love building decks, and Decking Around is a series where I will take an idea or a request from someone building around a certain card, strategy, etc., and I will just hit the record button and we'll make up, I'll show you my whole thought process from A to Z. Every single thought that comes to mind when throwing in the cards and taking cards out and things like that. We'll come up with a final list. I'll make a video separate for that. We'll call it the build video as usual. And then I will record a separate video where we will play 2 games with the deck and sort of see how it runs. We'll sort of have a first impressions of the deck, sort of see what works, what doesn't from a first impressions point of view, see if we can add anything for the future. And yeah, hopefully, my goal for this kind of series is because normally people just, play out their games, test their decks, and then they'll come up with a sort of a final list and a deck tech type of thing. No one really has a sort of thought process video where they'll, throw out their thoughts and show their viewers sort of how they build decks. Obviously this is coming from a YouTube standpoint. From Twitch, you obviously have that live element, so that's a little bit different. But for the YouTube scene, there's not really anything like that. So I hope you guys can get something out of this, and I really just hope to inspire people to build their own decks, have fun with the game through the deck building aspect. Because the game, when you're net decking, the game can get a little stale. So it's nice to spice up things by building some fun decks here and there. So hopefully it inspires you guys to build your own decks and try and hit things from a different angle. So yeah, that is that. Otherwise, let's just jump right into it. The build videos are usually fairly long just because I'm sort of showing my whole thought process. So yeah, let's jump right into it. So today I wanted to build sort of a zoo deck because I wanted to try, it's the start of a new season. We're back at rank 16 because we hit S rank last season, and I like building slightly faster decks in the early season just to sort of push through those early ranks a little bit quicker, hopefully at least. Especially in the first week or even couple of weeks, it can be a little bit tough because everyone's playing their top tier decks because a lot of the S rank players are still sort of catching up. But we'll hopefully get through the early ranks and get to gold as soon as possible. So I wanted to build with a card in mind. So I was looking through the card lists and I came across Chaos Elemental, and then I remembered Chaos Elemental isn't really played anymore, but it is a very good card in my opinion. I really like Chaos Elemental, and I think, especially since Abyssian's so prevalent and Songhai's prevalent, Chaos Elemental is pretty good against both of those decks, or both of those factions. Reason being is Chaos Elemental has 4 health and 4 attack. So with the Nightstar Assassin change, no longer does the old Nightstar Assassin actually trade with Chaos Elemental. It doesn't anymore. So Chaos Elemental is a little bit stickier against Abyssian if they're playing, since they're obviously playing Nightstar Assassin, Abyssian's going sort of more of a slower game plan now, and Big Abyssian and Swarm Abyssian are becoming much more prevalent. So I wanted to build an Abyssian deck that was a little bit faster, try to go under them a little bit, and because I still think Aggro Abyssian's still very, very strong. They have usually no problems dealing out of hand damage. They have a couple less finishers and they require a little bit more setup. So I figure a Zoo style deck where we're just trying to flood the board early, contest it through that, and try and set up a good Soulshatter pack turns, we'll try and do that. Because you're looking at hitting at least 2 minions with Soulshatter pack to get a fair amount of value damage to mana ratio, I guess, because if you're hitting at least 2 minions with it, you're getting 4 damage for 2 mana. So that is good. So with that in mind, I want to try and build a sort of an aggro zoo style deck with Chaos Elemental. Full face burn is a lot less viable, obviously, and I just don't know. You guys know me. I don't really play face decks, anyways. I figure, so I do like aggro decks, but I don't really like the full just throw things at your face type of decks. And Chaos Elemental is nice against Songhai because 3 is an awkward amount of health for them to deal with some of their spells. Phoenix Fire doesn't kill it. Helm of Mechazor Frenzy doesn't kill it unless they buff it. Tuscarora doesn't kill it. So it's a little bit sticky against them, and it can tend to contest the board very, very well in the early game. Obviously, late game is a little bit tougher, but it's still a 4/4 for 3 mana, and more often than not, I get fairly decent RNG spawns. It can in a lot of matches, Chaos Elemental can represent 8 damage for 3 mana, just because your opponent sometimes in the early game They don't want to lose their board, so they can sometimes hit it with their general to hopefully get a good RNG spawn for them, and sometimes it just spawns right beside them, and then it's a little bit awkward. So Chaos Elemental is just good. I really like it in sort of an aggro style, Zoo style deck, because it's aggro enough where it can just go face and do a fair amount of damage, but it can contest the board as well, and that's really, really strong. So I think with the new buffs and stuff like that, the new changes that had happened, it's a much better fit in an aggro style deck now. And also with the new Nightshade Assassin change, we can go for more of a tempo style deck, a more tempo style aggro deck, just because we're not going full face. The new Nightshade Assassin change can help us just have more efficient trades and or kill off things more efficiently, and it just helps the Lionar matchup, which is one of the kind of factions that is normally really, really tough for a deck like this to deal with, since they have Tempest and they have Holy Immolations and stuff like that. So the new Nightshade Assassin change definitely helps out in that matchup. So that is sort of the goal of the deck, and now that we have sort of an idea of what our goal is for a deck like this, we are looking for just good early board presence, try and set up good Soulshatter pack turns, and then have out-of-hand damage to finish off our opponent, or just big bursty turns. In Abyssian, when you have good Soulshatter pack turns and you just set up your board early enough, if you want to cash in those Soulshatter packs, you can really just have so much pressure in that one turn that it's really hard for your opponent to actually come back from, unless they just find all of their heals in the next couple of turns. So, and the main goal is to hopefully they will try and just use their minions to trade into ours, and we can push damage with our own minions. Really, in a Zoo style deck, it's all about flooding the board, taking value trades when you can, but you are in essence an aggro deck, so we have to keep that in mind. We don't really want to play the late game, so I'm honestly not really. I don't really think I'm going to include Spectral Revenants. Even though it's such an amazing card, I don't think we want to try and get to that point. And if we do happen to get to core 7, I think we'll have enough out-of-hand damage through like Dark Seeds maybe, or Flameblood Warlocks, that we can generally just finish our opponent off with those kinds of cards. We'll see once we start coming up with a more complete list, but at the moment I think we're going to be a little bit more low curve, trying to be just more flood the board early on, and try and go under those swarm strategies where they're trying to build up swarm fairly early on, and we just want to sort of hit their face. So we have to worry about that a little bit, but obviously Chaos Elemental is going to be in. We'll include that. So obviously with any deck, it's good to sort of come up with your goal, come up with your game plan, and then try and build a shell or a core set of cards that represent that idea or that goal, and then you can sort of fill in support spots from there. That's generally how I build my deck, and that's generally what you'll see throughout the series. But deck building is different for everyone, so definitely build accordingly. Saber Spines Tigers are good for finishers, good for going face, but also good for trades when we can. So that is going to be a core card. Healing Mystic helps us heal Chaos Elemental to keep pushing trades or face damage. Flameblood Warlocks, I think, will help in just dealing damage. I mean, we are an aggro deck. Primus Fist help it trade up, and it represents more damage. And Dream Gazers, I think we're going to run because it helps us flood the board early on. It's just a way we can, an extra body being able to represent 4 damage with Soulshatter Pact is huge. Hopefully we get some good RNG spawns on it, but that's all right. So I think that should do it for our early drops. 3, 6, 9. Dream Gazer, we're not really playing with our mana, but it is technically a first turn play, I guess. But I think we do want to try and flood the board super, super hardcore. So I think I may even want to include some more 2 drops. Iraqi Headhunter might not be a bad idea. It doesn't die to just a general attack. Primus Fist can buff it up to a healthy amount. It can make it a 4/3, which gets it out of Knights or Assassin range. Very, very threatening card. The problem is, of course, it just requires you to have those opening gambits. It is nice with the new Knights or Assassin change, though, because we can go Iraqi Hunter into Knights or Assassin, kill off whatever they have early on, and then have a 3/3 with Iraqi Headhunter. So that's pretty good. The Knights or Assassin change buffed up Iraqi Headhunter for these kinds of decks as well. So that is an option. But in terms of Abyssian core cards, Void Pulse is just too good against Songhai. Songhai is really popular right now. I'm wondering if I want to include Lure. People are going to be playing cards like Blood Moon Priestess and Shadow Dancer at a range, and we have very few ways of dealing with that, especially with the Knights or Assassin change. We can't kill off Shadow Dancer from out of range, out of hand very easily. So I think I'm going to need to include at least a couple of lures. If anything, we can just push big threats out of the way that we don't want to trade our minions into, where we can just keep pushing face damage. In Soulshatter Pact, I think I want to try running 3 because I think I'm going to try and go for the really greedy game plan of, you know, setting up an early board and then just like, I don't know, double Soulshatter Pact. That might be wishful thinking. Yeah, maybe we'll cut it to 2. Grasp of Agony is a little tough. Like, it represents 3 damage for 1 mana a lot of the time, which is really, really good. It also is MVP in the Vanar matchup. And we do want to try and control the board, but I think I'm going to value bodies over cards like Grasp of Agony, because I'm also not going to be including Spectral Blade. I don't think Spectral Blade's as good in this meta. Well, it's tough to say. Like, Spectral Blade's just such a good card. Everyone knows that. But against Abyssian, where they have Void Pulses, like, lots of Abyssians are going to be running Void Pulses and Shadow Dancers. And the most common Abyssian so far, from what I've been reading, that people have been playing against, is Swarm. So and Songhai just has so many ways to deal with Spectral Blade as well. They have a lot of ways to ping off your artifact. So you can get a little bit of value for 2 mana. You're essentially trading up possibly into like an Emerald Rejuvenator. You're getting extra 2 damage into your opponent's face. It does force him to deal with it, but I don't know. I think I want to represent just having board presence, especially if we are valuing Soulshatter Pact as just pushing damage. I don't think we're going to want Spectral Blade. Soulshatter Pact also does allow us to trade up. I think we're going to play a very low curve deck, so I think Rite of the Undervault might be a good card to include. It depends how much burn we're going to include as well, if we want to try and finish our opponent off. Knights or Assassins are an auto-include. Shadow Dancers, I think, are actually going to be pretty good. It's good against Swarm if they don't happen to have a Shadow Dancer, and they have a big Swarm built up. It'll make them much less, you know, they won't want to trade in a lot of stuff a lot of the time if they don't, unless they can kill me that turn, or if they can get a really, really good Death Watch turn themselves. So pretty good. It's really good against Songhai if we want to just worry about trading. It allows us to ping off their artifacts, heal up a little bit, so that is good. Spectral Revenant, it's tough. We only have 8 spots left. I think we need some more early drops. Again, I think I want to be pretty low curve. Gloom Chaser is pretty good with Soulshatter Pact. Like Dreamgazer into Gloom Chaser, and then next turn just like Soulshatter Pact, and you can push a lot of damage that way. Or even going turn 2, like replace Dreamgazer, Flameblood Warlock, Gloom Chaser. You can have a lot of damage the following turn. Drawing into Soulshatter Pact potentially. Now is the tough part. So this is where we're getting to a point where we're including more supportive cards and including cards that still go along with your game plan but aren't as just auto include. Jaxi is pretty good. Goes well just having a sticky threat potentially with Soulshatter Pact, and also we can still trade up with it with Primus Fist. Gives us some early board control. It's I don't know. Jaxi's still really good. And Vitruvian's not as prevalent anymore, so their 0 mana dispels aren't as damning. Vanar's still there, but, you know, it is what it is. I think we should be able to flood the board against Vanar enough that it's not too bad. If Vanar's really, like, popular right now, I would just tech in Grasp of Agonies. It shuts down their game plan fairly easily. I would also want to include Spectral Revenant, though, if Vanars get really popular. Emerald Rejuvenator, healing's good. I'm just wondering if Shadow Dancer is going to be enough healing for us, especially with Void Pulse as well. Like, we don't want to play the longer game. Excuse me. If our opponents are using resources and dealing with our threats and trading their minions into ours, that just technically heals us, I guess, in a way. So I'm wondering if just like Hailstone Golem might even be a thing. I mean, it has 4 attack, doesn't get killed with Knights or Assassin. 6 health is quite a bit. That reminds me. Dancing Blades, I think, is going to be a must. So if we want to flood the board early on, control the board through there, and then transfer into just like Dancing Blades can help us just keep our opponent down and represents good sticky minion. Like, it represents 6 damage the following turn with Soulshatter Pact. That's not a bad idea. We have 5 spots left. So I do think we want to be fairly low curve. So I think I want to include another early drop. I think we either need to include some 4 drops or we need to include more 2 drops. I think we have plenty of 3 drops with Assassin, Chaos, and Saber Spine, so that should do it for that. We don't want to fill up on 3-drops because that's sort of an awkward turn. You want to really value 2-drops and 4-drops just because just the way the mana goes. Having 2-drop into like 2-drop or 2-drop into 4-drop is generally going to be your opening couple of turns. So, well, if we are including Chaos Elemental, I mean, going second, it means we can like take the mana tile and play a 1-drop like Maw. I wonder if that's a thing. Like, it does help flood the board, and we have Right of the Undervault. Like, I could put in 3 Maw, put in another Right of the Undervault because we'll be playing a faster deck, and then like put in something else. That gives us 3, 6, 9, 12 turn 1 plays. Technically 15 with Dreamgazer. That might be an option. It dies so easily, though. But, you know, since it is 1 mana, your opponent, unless they trade it with their face, they're going to be sort of losing value on their trade. Because if they use, like, a Phoenix Fire to kill it, or if they use Knights or Assassin to kill it, we're technically coming out ahead with those kinds of trades. If your opponent deals it with their face, still a win for you. Yeah, I wonder if Maw is good. Like, we could include Komodo Charger because it doesn't die to general attack, so it like works with Soulshatter Pact a little bit, but I don't know. We could also play Dragonlark, play it behind us, use Soulshatter Pacts to like trade up with it while we can still develop our board. Alternatively, I think we should include Darkseed maybe if we want to make it a little bit low curve. Like, we're not a full face deck, but I think we do need just out of hand damage. Like, I don't know if Flame Bloods and Void Pulses and Saber Spines are going to cut it. Like, I think we still need that out-of-hand damage to actually help close out games, especially since Abyssian is being a little bit less, being a little bit slower. A lot of the times they'll have more of a full hand rather than Burn, where they'll just throw out their hand. Songhai's a little bit tough. If we get them on turns where they're just building up a combo, we can get 5 to 6 damage in for 4 mana, but otherwise they'll usually throw out cards fairly quickly. Maybe I should include Jaxi. It's pretty good. Maybe Jaxi and 2 Darkseeds. It's either that or run Spectral Revenant. Because, I mean, in the late game, you can still do, like, Spectral Revenant plus Flameblood Warlock or Spectral Revenant plus Soulshatter Pact. Whereas if we include Darkseeds, we could maybe go Darkseeds, Saber Spine, Soulshatter Pact. That'd be like 5, maybe 10 damage. I don't know, Spectral Revenant's just so good, though. I think we have to include it as late game. Like, we're not looking to play the late game, but we are doing more board control in the early games and stuff like that. And the games I think are going to naturally be longer than any face deck that we play. We're just trying to set up good Shadow Dancer turns, maybe. Like, Shadow Dancer is just, I don't know. We're a Zoo style deck, so taking value trades when we can. Like, Shadow Dancer is still a big threat, right? Especially against Swarm decks, because they won't want to trade in their Wraithlings if Shadow Dancer's on the board, without taking big amounts of damage and healing us as well. And if we are trading stuff in, that's still potentially creating a 4 health difference. It doesn't have as much healing as Emerald, obviously, but over the long term, if it stays alive, it's just a lot of value. We're gonna try it. We'll try it. Yeah, I think this is good. I'm wondering if I need the right. Like, maybe I want to include like a 3rd Shadow Dancer, or maybe even just go the 3rd Soulshatter Pact. Like, we do have a fairly low curve deck though, so maybe leaving the Red Eye Vault's fine. Chaos Zoo. It's a cool sounding deck name. Or Soulshatter Zoo. Yeah. We're looking to build towards big Soulshatter Pact turns. So I think we'll do that. This list, I don't know. It looks alright. We have a good early game. There's very, very unlikely we would not be able to have something in the turn, going on turn 1. It would be interesting to try running 1-drop. Going Chaos Elemental with, Maw or something like that, because it makes our turn 2 plays a little bit less awkward if we have those 2 cards in hand. But I think it's still alright. we'll try this. We'll see how it goes. And yeah. But that is the build, you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe to be on the lookout for the gameplay videos, which I'll record fairly soon after this, and get that up as soon as possible. But otherwise, hopefully you guys have a great night, day, morning, wherever you are, and I will talk to you guys soon.